You're listening to the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast with Debbie Sasson, episode 97. Welcome to the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Debbie Sasson. I went from being a financial advisor, author, and chronic under-earner to building my business to six figures as a financial planner and money mindset coach, and then onto multiple six figures as a full-time money and business coach. I help entrepreneurs create money-making businesses and build wealth using sales and money mindset strategies and in alignment with authentic Jewish values. Now, let's dive in to today's show. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the podcast. This podcast is dropping between the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. And to all of my listeners, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're listening, and whenever you are listening, I want to wish you a Shana Tova. It should be a good and sweet year, a year that is blessed with sweetness, with good health, with prosperity and abundance. Enjoy your life, enjoy your family, and God willing, this Jewish year, Tafshin Pei Daled, should be a year filled with all good things for people everywhere. Today on the podcast, I want to go deeper into a topic that I touched on just a little bit in last week's interview with Gila Ross, and people have commented on what I said. If you go and listen to the podcast, it was a beautiful interview, a wonderful discussion that Gila and I had. And very near the beginning of our interview, Gila was talking about moving from Manchester to Denver and what went into that. And I stopped her and I said, I just want to point out that the thought of moving to Denver was impossible, and then it became possible, and then it became inevitable. And in fact, today when I'm recording this podcast, Gila is already living in Denver. At the time when we recorded that podcast, it was before she even left Manchester. And during the course of her summer travels, she actually landed in Denver before the podcast aired live last week. But people commented that that was something that they took away, that things in the beginning, you don't think you can really achieve them, and ultimately you do. So I thought today, and also since it's the new year for me, the Jewish year, and on Rosh Hashanah, I believe that God decrees what my income is for the entire year. Now, I don't know what it is, and it's my responsibility to believe that He wants to give it to me, that He's there, and to trust Him and rely on Him. And of course, I have to do my part. I mean, I can't go hang out on the beach. I mean, maybe a little bit. It's always nice to have a beach holiday. I can't spend all of my days hiking in the mountains. I know there are people who do that. They take days and weeks and months off. And in fact, there was like a 2-day period a few weeks ago where my husband and I almost signed up for a hiking trip to Kilimanjaro in January and February, but that dropped off of our radar for various reasons. Maybe one day in the future I will climb Kilimanjaro, but it is not happening in 2024. But we're just going to plant seeds and we're going to see where they sprout. At the moment, that is still an impossible dream. It has not yet even moved into possibility. But anyway, I wanted to talk about as you are going to your goals, right? You're thinking about your goal. It's possible for you to create a $100,000 year, a $500,000 year, $1 million year in your business, wherever it is. And we use what people commonly call mindset. I call it thought work, really focusing on your thoughts in order to reach your goals. And I'm going to teach you a concept today called thought ladders. But before we get into exactly what a thought ladder is, we're going to have to do a little bit of background work. So you might want to get out your journal, a pencil, paper. It's almost going to be like school, or you can just listen. The first thing we have to talk about is the think, feel, do cycle. We're always operating in a cycle. We think thoughts. Now, for most of us, probably all of us on the human planet, the first thoughts we think just happen so quickly. we have no idea what they are. They're just probably jumping out of our subconscious mind into our conscious mind. And because of our thoughts, we feel feelings. There is energy coursing in our body. That is emotion, energy in motion. And because of the things we are feeling in our body, that causes us to do things, to act, not act. It could be something that we say, right? If you're feeling that somebody insulted you or offended you, you might reply back to them. You might bark back at them or insult them back. You might have learned how to conquer your emotions and you can be quiet. But whatever it is, we're operating in think, feel, do cycles. You think thoughts, you feel feelings, and because of the emotions, because of that emotional response in your body, that is what fuels your actions. And then the actions you take lead to your results. So ultimately, it is your thoughts that cause your results, but we're not talking about that right now. Okay, so think, feel, do cycles. Let's also talk about the difference between a thought and a belief. A thought is something that you can think over and over and over again, but you might not yet believe that it's true. For example, one of the thoughts I am working on believing is that I am $1 million earner in 1 year. My business has already generated over $1 million from the time that I started in my business 15 years ago until now, but I want to collapse time and earn $1 million in my business in a year. So I'm thinking that thought, that it's possible for me to earn $1 million in a year, and that is exactly one of the thoughts on my thought ladder that we will get to. But it will become a belief when I actually see that it is inevitable, that it's almost there, and I can almost touch it. Then that thought is no longer just a sentence in my mind, but it is a strong, firm belief that I'm $1 million earner in a year. Now, the amazing thing is that we can think thoughts that we do not yet believe. That is something that humans can do. We have this special gift that we can think thoughts on our thoughts, that we can imagine, that we can visualize. I mean, we can visualize things that are completely not true. And there is a lot of fantasy and cartoons and movies, and you know all the things. We can create an alternate reality of things that we don't believe, but because we can think about them and we can conceptualize them, we can create them. And when we go to the movies or we watch a show or something like that, it will trigger or generate an emotional response in our body. But when we bring ourselves back to reality, bring ourselves back down to the material world where we are building our businesses, if you're thinking a thought that you do not yet believe, for example, I am $1 million in a year earner, that's not going to trigger a positive response in my body. In fact, it might trigger thoughts in my mind like, Debbie, who are you kidding? Like, who do you think you are? You haven't done that yet. Like, it's absolutely impossible. Don't blow smoke. That's ridiculous. And what happens to so many people when they're trying to stretch themselves to an income goal, and we've talked about setting stretch income goals on the podcast before, if they're stretching themselves too far and trying to believe something that is outside of their reality, it doesn't generate an emotional response in their bodies that fuels positive actions towards their goals. And I think I've even told you in the past about one of my clients. I worked with her 3-4 years ago, and indeed she had $1 million on her vision board, and she said she was numb. It really didn't inspire her to take the next step forward in her business because it was too far out. And that is exactly the reason why we need ladder thoughts, because we can't jump. Let's say your business is earning $100,000 in a year. You can't jump from believing you're going from $100,000 to $1 million in a year. It's just too much of a stretch. So we have to have little baby steps in between. We have to have like a ladder of thoughts to help us believe that something is possible. Now, before we just jump into the thought ladder specifically, let me just share with you one more thought, one more idea that is connected with the idea of thoughts being different from beliefs, because a belief is something that you have thought over and over again and you actually see it coming into reality. And that is, I want to debunk the power of positive feeling. This is something that I've probably talked about before, But when you try to think a thought that is so far stretched from reality, and your body knows something different, like your body might know solidly that you can earn $100,000 in a year because you've done it, or you're at $80,000 or $90,000 this year in 2023, so you can actually see how close you are. There's this dissonance that's created between what you know for a fact and what you are trying to believe, and your body always wins. There is wisdom in your body that is telling you, again, like, don't blow smoke. That is so far gone. It is so far removed from reality. You're dreaming. It's never going to happen. Stop it already, right? Our brains, our bodies, your gut actually is like another brain, right? They have wisdom that they're holding for us. And we really want to be able to drop into the wisdom of our body and listen to what it's telling us. So if it's telling you, that's ridiculous, it's not happening, stop trying to think all of these positive thoughts. In fact, I once had a client tell me that she would visualize before she would go to sleep, she would visualize money raining down from heavens. You see how creative we can get? We can imagine money falling down from the heavens, like manna falling from the sky when the Jews were in the desert for 40 years. But if your mind isn't believing it, it is not generating those feelings in your body that is causing you to take positive action toward your goal. So this is exactly the reason why we need to create a thought letter. And when I'm working with my clients in Wired for Wealth, we're actually spending the entire month of September really noticing our thoughts, focusing on our thoughts, and we're trying to see what the next best thought we can think. I call it a 1% shift in your thoughts, because you might be thinking, I'm too far behind, I'm never going to get there, it's impossible, nobody wants to work with me, nobody wants to pay my prices, I'm exploiting my clients when I charge those prices, right? We've had a lot of negative thoughts coming up in Wired for Wealth, and I never ever make them a problem. In fact, it's beautiful that we can find them, that we can excavate them, that we can uncover the thoughts that are generating feelings that are negative, that are holding my clients back from taking positive steps towards their goal. And when we can shift their thinking by 1% and open up possibility, it's beautiful. That is exactly when my clients will be able to take the next step forward. In fact, yesterday, one of my clients was telling me she was about to have a sales conversation with a potential client, and she was scared. And it was beautiful that she recognized the thoughts in her head that were triggering fear before that sales call. And we were just able to shift it a little bit, so she was able to have the sales call without shutting down in fear and really just kind of throwing it out to God. Whoever wants to sign with me will sign with me. Whoever doesn't want to sign with me won't sign with me, right? Learning the skill of having a sales conversation by changing your thoughts and changing the way you show up to your sales call makes all the difference in the world. That's why we focus so much just on your thoughts, just to get started. Because when you can shift 1%, it's going to change the entire trajectory of your business. If you think for a minute of a boat on the water, and the boat is heading towards a goal, and they get their goal off by 1 degree, and the boat starts sailing off into the sunset, 1 degree separated from where they thought they were going. Where are they going to end up at the end of hours and hours and hours of sailing? They're just not going to get to the same goal. That's why we want to shift your thoughts. All right, let's talk about a thought ladder. It is exactly what it sounds like. Imagine you draw yourself a ladder, and your ladder can have 4 rungs, 5 rungs, 10 rungs on it. It doesn't really matter. But you want to put the thought that you are thinking right now at the bottom of your ladder. So let's say your thought is, I am a $100,000 a year earner. And your goal is $1 million a year earner. So your goal thought would be, I am $1 million a year earner. But again, as I shared with you, I don't yet believe that thought. So I have to think of baby steps. Again, that 1% shift that's going to get me from the belief that I am a $100,000 earner. My personal situation is that I'm already a $300,000 a year earner. but we're just going to leave it because we have 10 steps. Just makes the math very easy. But we want to start thinking new thoughts that are just one step removed, one rung on our ladder removed from I am a $100,000 a year earner. So sometimes we put phrases in front of the thought that we're trying to think, that goal thought. So again, if it's I'm a $1 million a year earner, and I actually dropped a hint to you, it's possible that I am a $1 million a year earner, or it's possible that I am already a $1 million a year earner. I am choosing to believe that. I am learning to believe that. I am open to believing that I am a $1 million a year earner. I am becoming a $1 million a year earner. Do you hear what I'm saying? When it's not so definitive, again, it's that belief that my brain is going to reject and my body's going to repel. It's going to be like, nope, sorry, Debbie, you're not that. That's why we just want to make it a much more open, expansive version of the sentence so that we can start eliciting an emotional response in our bodies that are going to encourage me to take actions towards my goal. So it's I'm becoming a $1 million a year earner. I'm open to believing that I'm a $1 million a year earner. And you can do a brain dump, download a bunch of ideas of what works for you. I mean, any of the ones that I've said are very valid and work for you. And for me, when I think about my rung, I'm open to believing that I'm a $1 million a year earner is lower on my ladder than I am becoming a $1 million a year earner. And somewhere down towards the bottom of the ladder would be, it's possible that I am. I am learning that it's possible. I'm choosing to believe that, right? There's really no right or wrong with the order. You just do a brain dump of all of the possible thoughts that sound more open, between you and your goal, thought, and then rank them in order that works for you. This isn't like, a math test where you need to know that 1 + 1 is 2 and 4 × 5 is 20. And I'm going to get myself all in pretzels if I keep going on with my math. But it has to work for you because, again, it's your thought that is going to fuel your feelings, and your feelings are going to drive your actions because you are operating in a think, feel, do cycle. So you want to just put them on the ladder that works for you. And then you want to practice your new thought that's on your thought ladder. So I'm open to believing that I'm a $1 million earner, and you practice it over and over and over again. You can look at the mirror when you're putting on your makeup in the morning, and as you're just putting your mascara on your eyelashes, you can be saying to yourself, I'm a $1 million a year earner. As you're cooking food in your kitchen, as you're doing laundry, washing your hands, as you're taking a walk around your neighborhood, right? Make sure that during the day, you are continually thinking your thought. I mean, not obsessively thinking it all day long, but you might leave a sticky note on a mirror. You might write it 3 times every morning in your journal, 3 times every evening before you close up work for the day. Make sure that you connect with your ladder thought several times during the day. You might write it on your phone, so it's going to be the backdrop to your phone, or there are even apps that remind you. They'll all of a sudden pop up, or you might have a reminder at 12 o'clock every day when you sit down and eat your lunch beautifully in a civilized way. You'll have an alarm on your phone that reminds you of your thought. And what you will notice is after you have practiced this ladder thought over and over again, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, yeah, I really believe that. And then what happens is you take the next step up the ladder. So you move from I'm open to believing to I'm choosing to believe, or I'm becoming the person who, right? You will find the next step up your ladder towards your goal thought. And then one day you're just going to start thinking, I'm a $1 million a year earner. And it's not going to create a negative emotional response in your body. Just now, as I'm recording this podcast, and I said that I felt a twinge in my stomach, which means that I don't yet believe it. Now, maybe it's time for me to jump from I'm becoming a $1 million a year earner, which seems much more neutral in my stomach, and it's time for me, as I'm recording this podcast and noticing my thoughts, for me to jump to my goal thought and work on that for a while and see how that feels. I also want to share with you another way that you can create ladder thoughts, because sometimes a thought like, I am $1 million a year earner, will be too far for me or you. I might think to myself, well, gosh, I'm a mom of 8 and I have grandkids and I have a busy life and I have my Jewish community and there are all these things going on. I can't imagine that that could ever happen to me. So then I have to look around the world. I have to look for evidence. I have to see, are there other people who are similar to me? I mean, if somebody's younger, if she has less kids, if she has other things going on in her life, I might believe in my mind it's okay for her, but my life is different. So I'm going to want to find evidence of people who are similar to me, who are doing what I want to do. And I know some women with large families who are also $1 million a year earners. So I can have sort of this side thought, right? There are women in the world who run large families and large businesses and are earning $1 million a year, right? When you notice that there are other people who are similar to you, then your body and brain don't want to deflect the thought so much because you're like, oh, there's evidence in the world. I see that it's possible for her. If she can do it, that means it's also available to me too. And by the way, this is something that I work with people on when we're just working on their thoughts about money, because there's so many negative beliefs about money. And if you're wealthy and you're going to become an evil person and you're greedy if you have a lot of money, we have a lot of negative thoughts about wealthy people. And so again, we want to look around and we want to find evidence for the fact that there are wealthy people in the world who are doing good, wealthy people in the world who are kind, wealthy people who are generous and doing really positive things in the world. So if your brain and your body are deflecting and rejecting the possibility of growing a $1 million business or a multi-million-dollar business, you also want to find evidence in the world for wealthy people who are good, kind, nice, generous, supportive people, and don't always take the people who are like put at the top of the newspaper headlines and in the media as the evil, greedy types, right? Make sure that you find evidence. It's possible for them. It's possible for you too. And your brain loves that. And it helps you to anchor in the belief that whatever you want is possible for you. And hey, if you can't find any evidence, there's no reason why you can't be the first. I think it's amazing that there are so many women today who are growing big, beautiful businesses, who are growing $1 million businesses and even multi-million-dollar businesses. And we need more people like us. We have been conditioned and socialized for generations to earn low wages. And yes, the number of women at the top is very, very small, but things are changing. The tide is changing. So I'm encouraging you to set your goals big, to set your goal thoughts big and get yourself to the top of the ladder, because you too can be a role model for other women, for your family, for your daughters and daughters-in-law and granddaughters-in-law, and of course, all of the men that are in your family, your sons and sons-in-law. Like we women, we get to rise to the top and we get to be the role models for the next generation. All right, my friends, let's just do a quick recap of how you use your thought work to get from it's impossible to possible to inevitable. And that is by finding where you are right now, what you are believing today, and then setting your goal thought. You know what that is, but there is a dissonance between what your brain and body believe today and what is possible for you in the future. So just little by little, baby step by baby step, ladder rung by ladder rung, we are going to change our thoughts. Because when you change your thoughts incrementally, it will change the feelings that you're feeling in your body, and the feelings that you feel in your body will trigger different actions, and those actions are going to create your results. So go ahead, create your goal for the new year, create your thoughts and your latter thoughts that are going to get you there. And if you would like to take this work deeper, I encourage you to check out my group coaching program, Wired for Wealth. Wired for Wealth has transitioned to unlimited coaching, meaning you get lifetime access to the program. It used to be a 9-month program, but now once you're in Wired for Wealth, my goal is that you create your first $5,000, $50,000, and $150,000 in your business, however long it takes. If you're a wife and a mom and you're doing all the things and it takes you 2 years to create $150,000, that is beautiful. You get weekly coaching, and we are working on your thoughts and changing your thoughts, shifting them 1% at a time. And when you excavate what's going on inside, it will all of a sudden create so much awareness. You'll be able to change your feelings and the actions that happen as a result of you doing the thought work and changing the way you show up for your business. So you can go to my website, debbiesasson.com/wealth. Check out what I'm offering you in Wired for Wealth. In October, we are going to work together to create our signature offers. I'm going to share a 90-minute workshop with all the members of Wired for Wealth, and you too will create your signature offer that you're going to focus on in your business for the next year. All right, my friends, thank you so much. Again, I wish you a Shana Tova. It should be a good, gebenched year. It should be healthy. You should have a Gemar Chatima Tova. You should be signed and sealed in the Book of Life. Bye-bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast. If you want to stop underselling and under-earning and close more sales, you need to clear the limiting money beliefs that are sabotaging your business growth. Head on over to debbiesasson.com/mindset and download my free Money Mindset Workbook. Uncover and dissolve money blocks like hundreds of other entrepreneurs who are now building 6, multi-6, and 7-figure businesses and creating true financial freedom.